all rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our veterans, servicemen and women, and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. The clerk will call the roll. After the roll call, under the provisions of the open meeting law, for those of you in attendance, please be informed that MATV is recording this evening's meeting, so just be aware there will be audio and video recordings of this meeting. First order of business. Roll call. Where are you sitting?
Councilor Anderson?
Oh.
Councilor Kamel? Here. Councilor Condon? Here. Councilor Crowe? Councilor DeMaria? Councilor Matheson? Councilor Murphy? Here. Councilor O'Malley? Here. Councilor Spatafora? Councilor Winslow? Here. President Council Seeker.
Here. Okay. Good evening. The following announcement is made pursuant to the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law. Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 22G1 requires this announcement of results periodic review conducted of executive session minutes for continued non-disclosure, together with the recommendations made for the release of these minutes. Following this announcement, the city clerk shall provide copies of any executive session minutes recommended for release to each councilor. These executive session minutes remain privileged, and each councilor shall maintain the confidentiality and privilege of these minutes pending review in executive session to be scheduled in the determination of the council on their release. The following executive session minutes remain privileged. Dates and basis for privilege as announced. 6709, personal privilege / privacy privileges. 1410, attorney-client privilege and personal privacy privileges. 22310, attorney-client privilege. 102610, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract, attorney-client privilege, and personal privacy privileges. 127010, attorney-client privilege. 21511, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. 32211, attorney-client privilege and personal privacy privileges, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contracts. 5111, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. 51711, attorney-client privilege and personal privacy privileges. 91112, security measures, policy and security and privacy related. 21913, attorney-client privilege and personal privacy privileges. 52113, attorney-client privilege. 61113, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract, and attorney-client privilege. 9313, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. 101713, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. 102213, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. 102913, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract, and attorney-client privilege. 111913, release detrimental to the city's negotiating position, existing contract. 11414, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contracts, and attorney-client privilege. 2414, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. 21814, security measures, policy, procedure, security, and attorney-client privilege. privacy-related. 22514, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. 32514, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract, attorney-client privilege. 51314, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. 52014, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract, and attorney-client privilege. 52714, attorney-client privilege, personal privacy related, and release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. 61714, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. 71514, attorney-client privilege and privacy related. 81914, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. 9214, attorney-client privilege and privacy related. 93014, release detrimental to the city's negotiating position, existing contract, and attorney-client privilege. 101414, release detrimental to the city's negotiating position, existing contract, and attorney-client privilege. 102814, attorney-client privilege and privacy related. 111814, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. 12914, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract, and attorney-client privilege. 12915, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. 21015, security measures, policy, security, criminal complaints, attorney-client privilege, and personnel and privacy related. 21715, security measures, policy, security, criminal complaints, attorney-client privilege, and personnel and privacy related. 31015, security measures, policy, security, criminal complaints, attorney-client privilege, and personnel and privacy related. 51215, security measures, policy, security, criminal complaints, attorney-client privilege, and personnel and privacy related. 52615, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. 62315, deliberative process and policy planning, value of real property, and attorney-client privilege. 92915, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. 10615, attorney-client privilege and personnel, privacy related, and criminal complaint. 101315, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. 102015, attorney-client privilege, personnel and privacy related, and criminal complaint. 102715, attorney-client privilege, personnel, privacy related, and criminal complaint. 111015, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract, attorney-client privilege, and personnel, privacy related, and criminal complaint. 11916, attorney-client privilege and personnel, privacy related, and criminal complaint, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. 22316, attorney-client privilege, personnel, privacy related, release detrimental to the city's negotiating position, existing contract. 31516, attorney-client privilege, personnel, and privacy related. 51016, release detrimental to city's negotiating position, existing contract. The following are recommended for release. 12511, contract negotiations, recommend with redaction. 111511, contract negotiation, recommend. 102312, contract negotiations. 21913, contract negotiations. The following minutes will remain privileged. 5/2703, attorney-client privilege and personnel privacy related. 12/313, attorney-client privilege and personnel privacy related. 12/1603, attorney-client privilege and personnel privacy related. 7/615, attorney-client privilege. 2/1307, attorney-client privilege and privacy related. 9/407, attorney-client privilege and personnel privacy related. 10/77, attorney-client privilege and personnel privacy related. 10/1607, attorney-client privilege and personnel privacy related. The following minutes are also recommended for release. 1/2704, contract negotiations. 10/2604, contract negotiations. 2/1505, contract negotiations. Release with redactions, attorney-client privilege. 4/1405, contract negotiations with release with redactions, attorney-client privilege. And finally, 12/1815, contract negotiations, and 12/815, the Malden Hospital site. So we will schedule executive session for next Tuesday, March 12th, after our committee of the whole meeting, to review these minutes to see, to vote on which ones we can release and which ones will remain privileged and confidential. I just want to thank the city solicitor's office, who have been working diligently to get these done for us. This is a huge portion of the minutes that go back to, I'm pretty sure, 2003. So we have some minutes to do for 16, 17, and 18, but this is a start, and I hope that, we can get these minutes released as soon as possible. Councilor O'Malley.
I was just going to request a list of everything you just read. I'm assuming will be provided.
You are going to get copies of executive session minutes for review,
Thank you.
okay? Okay, next order of business. Public comment?
Public comment. We have two guests, Marcia Manog and Kathleen Sullivan, regarding Roosevelt Field.
Good evening. Please state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Marsha Manong of 296 Bryant Street in Malden. I'm not speaking on Roosevelt Field, however. I speak on behalf of Councilor at Large Debbie DeMaria. I have a statement for her. Quote, "My apologies for being absent this evening. My daughter has gone into labor and I needed to be with her. I know it is the nature of our job as counselors that disagreements happen and tempers sometimes flare, but is highlighting our differences by strategizing sanctions with adversarial language that alienates constituents and each other really the best use of our time. We have now spent several weeks focusing on bad behavior and discussing punitive rules changes during council meetings, as well as press releases in local newspapers. Is this the type of publicity our council should be promoting? Respect, decorum, morals, and ethics cannot be forced or legislated. I continue to urge each of us to stay focused on our work for our Malden. Clearly, there is no shortage of work to be done. We can be better for each other and to each other. We must be better for Malden. The responsibility rests with us," unquote. If I may add my own 2 cents, I would like to quote former President Barack Obama at his inauguration in 2009, when he said, "We gather because we have chosen hope over fear, unity of purpose over conflict and discord." That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
evening, everyone. My name is Kathleen Sullivan. I live at 27 Oliver Street in Malden. It was recently announced that the city has plans to use some of the funds generated by the CPA to artificial turf the Roosevelt Field. I have serious concerns about artificial turf in general. While it is true that artificial turf has become a popular alternative, the jury is still out on the safety of crumb rubber used as fill on such fields. Ground-up tires contain a host of dangerous chemicals which is the cause of continued research and studies on the safety of these fields. The 1,200+ students who attend the Salemwood School deserve to be the first consideration. Their safety must supersede the need for playable time for sporting events. As a resident and science teacher at the Salemwood School, I voted for the CPA because I believe in preservation. If you Google the word preserve, the following definition is reserved. So the following definition is revealed: maintain in its original or existing state. So why do we need a natural field? Grass absorbs pollutants on the surface and from the air. A 50 by 50 square foot area of grass provides enough oxygen for a family of 4. Approximately 1,800 trees would need to be planted to offset the carbon footprint created by installing an artificial turf field. Artificial turf can raise the surface temperature by as much as 40 degrees, adding unnatural heat to the atmosphere. The carbon footprint left by an artificial turf field makes one question its environmental benefit. As members of this committee, as residents of this community, we need to do our homework on artificial turf, its questionable safety, and the environmental effects of removing natural green space. In Malden, we currently have a costly problem of lead pipes causing safety issues in our homes. Do we want to continue to pretend that artificial turf is the only answer to having playable fields and not acknowledge it also may cause health issues in the future? Coincidentally, I just started a unit on pollution and reducing our human footprint, and I always like to bring our community into lessons. Last week, we talked about the initiative in the city to end the use of plastic shopping bags. Today, we created a pro and con list for shopping bags and artificial turf. The students led the discussion. The pros of artificial turf were similar to the proponents: less mud, more playtime. What surprised me was the cons they came up with on their own. Those black things stick all over your body and your clothes, and they get in your shoes and your hair. The fake grass really hurts when you fall on it, and it cuts you. And when it's hot, the field is hot, and those black things get all squishy. When I told them at the end of our discussion about the plan for our field, the majority were very sad and unhappy that they were going to lose the grass, even though it gets muddy. I thank you for your time, and I invite each of you to come talk to my 5th graders at the Salemwood School so you can hear from them as well. My door is always open for your visit. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kathy. Really fast from the chair, I just want to let you know, what we're voting on this evening has nothing to do with artificial turf. Artificial turf is actually not allowed to be purchased with CPC funds. We're voting on the funds that are going to do the design, the site preparation, fencing, netting. The CPC is actually not paying for the artificial turf. I'm not sure if everybody is aware of that. When Julianne came to speak in front of us, she made that quite clear, that artificial turf is not something that the CPC can fund. So that is not what we're voting on this evening. Next order of business.
Approval of minutes. Minutes of the council meeting of February 5th, 2019. Minutes of the council meeting of February 19th, 2019. And minutes of the council meeting of February 26th, 2019.
On Councilor Murphy's motion to approve the minutes, Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. As you know, I've been reading the minutes recently. On 2/5/19, we've made this correction a few times, but it hasn't ever actually been reflected in the paper. There is paper 509-18. Be it hereby ordained that Chapter 12 of the Revised Ordinances of 1991, as amended, be further amended relative to allowing multifamily dwellings only up to 7 stories. The sponsors are only listed as Councilor Murphy, but the sponsors are Councilor Murphy, Spatafora, Matheson, and myself.
Yeah, we
So
did do that. You're
I'd
right.
move to amend the minutes to reflect that.
Do you have another amendment? You want to take them up individually?
No, that is, I just want to make sure the elections, we changed the elections that time too, right? No, that's all, thank you.
Okay. Counselor O'Malley's motion to amend the minutes from council meeting February 5th. All those in favor? All those opposed? Minutes have been amended. Any other amendments before all the other minutes are good, Counselor O'Malley? Okay. On Counselor Murphy's motion to approve the minutes. All those in favor? All those opposed? The minutes have been approved. Next order of business.
Appointments and elections. Mayoral reappointment, Charles Ferguson, 44 Ashland Street, Malden, as an associate member of the Planning Board. Mayoral reappointment, Catherine Paganham Bilgen, 63 Upham Street, Malden, as the Build Architect member of the Zoning Board of Appeal. Mayoral appointment, Emily Kibler, 50 Concord Street, Apartment 1, Malden, as an associate member of the Board of Appeal. Council reappointment, Catherine Fallon, Malden, as city solicitor. Mayoral reappointment, William Coleman, 53 Kimball Street, Malden, as a member of the Department of Public Works Commission.
Counselor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam President. Just motion to refer to appointments and personnel, although we have a.
Sure.
No,
Counselor
no, no.
Winslow.
I believe there's, I just would double check, Emily Kibler, I don't know if there's an L at the end of her name, so I just would make sure that we're referring the right person to the right. So I would just double check that spelling of that name, thank you.
It is. It's Kibler.
Okay, so there's, yeah, so just make that correction, thank you.
Thank you. On Counselor Crowe's motion to refer the appointments to personnel. Oh, sorry. Did it?
So it was funny that Councilor Winslow brought up a name discussion. There has been some talk about whether or not, okay, yeah, there was just some discussion on whether or not the name Catherine Fallon is the legal name of our solicitor. I don't know. That's something that I read in an email recently, so,
It is.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. On Counselor Crowe's motion to refer the appointments to personnel and appointments. All those in favor? All those opposed? The appointments have been referred. Next order of business.
Hearings, petitions, memorials, livery, David Ulyss, 2030 Bryant Street, Malden, 1-car renewal, taxi cabs, Malden Transportation, 292 Eastern Ave, 39 cabs renewal.
On Counselor Murphy's motion to refer these petitions to license, all those in favor? All those opposed? The petitions are referred. Next order of business.
Motions, orders, resolutions. Ordered that the sum of $337,973.73 be and the same is hereby transferred from salary revenue 0010996511 to the following accounts. Shall I read all the accounts? Hope he has them all here. Okay. Legislative salaries, $2,206.59. Executive salaries, $14,580. Assessor salaries, $6,573.29. Legal salaries, $1,278.31. Human resource salaries, $3,048.13. IT salaries, $9,637.53. City clerk salaries, $14,748.53. Police labor salaries, $120,305. Fire admin salaries, $5,491.32. Public facilities salaries, $48,083.93. PIPS salaries, $20,114.59. Engineering salaries, $5,665.32. Board of Health salaries, $2,373.59. Veteran salaries, $2,158.01. Library salaries, $21,709.56. Executive professional services, $60,000.
Counselor Camille.
Refer to finance.
Counselor O'Malley.
I just didn't see it on the docket. Who is the sponsor of that paper?
These were sent down from the mayor, from finance.
So are you the sponsor?
If that's, I'll be the sponsor. Yep, that's why, yeah. Yeah, it's just not listed here, so,
Thank you.
yep.
On Counselor Camille's motion to refer this matter to finance, all those in favor? All those opposed? The matter is referred. Next order of business.
Ordered that the appropriations enumerated below being in the amount of $637,549 be appropriated from the Community Preservation Fund for the following projects. Which I don't. Okay. High Rock, $5,300. Library Archives, $154,364. World War I Memorial Park, $4,220. Malden Art Line, $40,643. Community Garden, $63,022. Fellsmere Park, $75,000. Roosevelt Park, $250,000. Trafton Park, $45,000. Total Community Preservation Fund expenditures, $637,549.
Counselor Camille. Oh, sorry.
Historic Resource Reserve amount, $154,364, in budgeted reserve account, $483,185. The total appropriation, $637,549.
Counselor Camille.
Yeah, so as Councilor O'Malley pointed out, just to have it official, would the record please show that I'm the sponsor of that, coming down through the chair of finance. I would suggest that we refer this to finance. I'd rather us have a little bit of a conversation about it rather than vote on it here tonight, and I hope you do so. Move to refer to finance.
Counselor Spatafora.
I just wanted to make a statement, if you want to go through the vote. I know there's a second, so unless you want discussion on the motion. Is it okay? I'm fine with discussion. Yeah, I just wanted to, just for the point of information, I know some of the people might have been watching 2 weeks ago that may not be watching now. The appropriation is not the full amount that's needed for these projects. In most cases, I know the council has something in front of it. It's important to note there is alternative funding for most of these projects. It's not covering the 100% of these projects. It's a small portion. Just for example, High Rock is requested funding of $5,300. The alternative funding is $500 from somewhere else. So it's, even though this is a large sum of money, there's other means and other methods for us collecting the money. I think it's important to let the record show that. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor Spatafora. On Counselor Camille's motion to refer to finance, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Matter has been referred. Next order of business.
Be it hereby ordained that Section 9.28 of the revised ordinances of 1991 be further amended to allow for the purchase of city-approved trash barrels and recycling barrels as an alternative to the city-approved trash bags and recycling bins.
Counselor Matheson for the paper.
Thank you, Madam President. So this stems from the Blue Bag Ordinance that was passed back in 2007. It's been a subject that has recurred, come up over and over the years. I would just like to point out that I've handed you some papers. One is a red line version of the ordinance where I put in approved trash barrels in addition to trash bags, and approved recycling barrels in addition to recycling bins. There was a resident petition that went out, much like the CPA,
back in 2009 that put this issue on the ballot. Many of us were on the council at the time. It was a little bit before my time. But what we found from that vote, the residents had gone out, gathered up all their signatures, and came out in mass. Just so you know, the last municipal election, we had about 6,000 voters. In this election, back in 2009, there were 8,508 voters. Of those voters, 67.72% of all voters voted to repeal the blue bag law. Of the opinion holders, those who voted yes or no on the subject, taking out the blanks, 72.73% voted to repeal the blue bag law. Just so you know, it's a landslide if you have 60%. We're talking about 72% of the people of Malden voted to have some different form of waste collection. Just to compare that with some of the other stuff that we've passed more recently, the marijuana licenses is something that has dominated the ordinance committee, where we found that of those folks, 51% of all voters were in favor of that, 54% of opinion holders were in favor of it, and we've rolled that out as a city. The CPA, I did some math on that as well. Of the 6,000 voters that came out for that, 55% voted in favor of it, of all voters, 61% of opinion holders. This blue bag petition that came out and the votes that we heard were even more overwhelmingly in favor of having some alternative to blue trash bags. Yet in the last 10 years, we've given residents no choice on this issue. The proposed ordinance that I'm going to refer to Ordinance Committee for a period of 90 days. And at 90 days, hopefully it comes back with an opinion or no opinion of the committee, but I want it to come back to this full council. The changes would not eliminate the blue bags. What it would do is give residents an option of having a barrel that doesn't require the blue bags. A couple weeks ago, Councilor O'Malley raised a paper that allowed people to use their blue bags, but also put them inside of a trash receptacle of their choice. And that's fine. I'm glad this subject has come up again. But I think it's very important that we serve the residents of this city. If the people say they want one form of government, it's fundamental to our job as city councilors to give them a government that's for the people. And I think this is an important issue that people have asked for. So for that reason, I'm going to make a motion to refer this to Ordinance Committee for a period of 90 days. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Camille.
Great. Thanks to Councilor Matheson for bringing up this important issue. I just want a little bit of clarification on the intent. I think I understand it, and I just have a couple of questions I want to put here. I know we'll probably refer it. I just want to make sure. So we're suggesting the folks buy these barrels. We're not providing the barrels for them. We're asking to buy them. And I'll list the questions and let Brittany respond. If we're substituting the barrels for the bags, is there contract ramification with the JRM contract? Because I'm not sure. I believe it specifically says within there, refers to the blue bags, and I just want to know if we change that, do we need to renegotiate? I mean, it would be no cost, but it holds us, no pun intended, over the barrel. They can hold us over the barrel in terms if we want to make a change. And then sort of as my, I just bought the stupid things, and I don't necessarily like them. But as the finance chair, I have to ask this question: is there a mechanism to replace the revenue? We collect about $1.2 million a year. If they buy the barrel, I mean, are we talking about a one-time cost, or are we talking about an annual license cost for the barrel? What happens if they lose their barrel? Can somebody else use it? Do we have them barcoded so you can't use somebody else's barrel or something like that? And just, so 90 days gives us, what is it, June. We'll be into the budget session then. I mean, this would have a substantial budget impact. So I just want to find out about the, I guess it's an open question about the timing and how is this going to work? Is it just going to end up affecting a later budget season? So, all right, thank you.
Okay, yeah, so I'll respond to some of those. I believe you asked 3 questions, and one was whether or not to purchase the barrels. I believe our discussion a couple weeks ago was that providing a barrel for the entire city would cost about $1.6 million. This would be a question for the committee when we get down into the numbers on this thing. Surely there is a break-even point where we can determine what a barrel would cost, and that cost could be passed on to the consumer if they want an alternative to just buying blue bags. I think some of the complaints with the blue bags is that it's frustrating when you run out of these things and you can't find them, and that they're flimsy. Sometimes they rip open and they're not convenient to have and to use. So to give people an option of putting it straight into the barrel without the blue bag, I think would be a bonus to folks, even if they had to buy their barrel. If they overfilled their barrel and they needed excess trash, I think it would still be useful to have the blue bag program around for those folks. As far as the JRM contract, I believe that this is a 20-year contract, which is a 10 and 10. In other words, renewable after 10 years. I believe that's coming up next year. So I don't think we're going to run afoul of that contract, but to the extent that there are provisions in there, negotiation time is coming up, and I think it would be a good time to roll out some changes. Did you have another question on this subject?
I'm sorry, can I ask clarification on the renewal? My belief was the renewal has to, my belief is or my understanding was that the renewal has to be, we have the option to go out and shop for equal services to be met at the same cost as JRM. I don't know if it's an opportunity for us to completely renegotiate the contract, so I'll also ask.
Well, anytime you can go out and shop for costs, it's a time that you can negotiate, surely.
If nobody bids on those.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the JRM contract, there's provisions right now that we're not living up to. There's provisions in there that say the residents can't scavenge the recycling. But as you know, there's people taking the 5-cent deposits out of our recycling bins. No one is policing that. I don't think that emptying a barrel is going to be any detriment to JRM under this contract.
I'm just asking if we've
But, no, absolutely.
discussed it with them. Has anybody discussed it with them?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you look back to this, this ballot question in this 2009 municipal election, I know that for the 2-year period following this election, Ward 1 Councilor Christensen campaigned on this issue. He said, give me your vote for mayor, and I will give some options to this blue bag program. That would lead me to believe that he would sign some kind of variation that would give some relief to the taxpayers of the city. But it hasn't happened yet, and we're going on 8 years now, so I think the time is right. I hope I answered your questions. I think that there's a lot of work for the committee to do on this subject. Yeah, a lot of the revenue that's baked into this is the reduction of incineration, right? The incineration cost that went down because people recycled. I think recycling behavior after the last 10 years is definitely been modified in this city. So I don't see our incineration rates going up by that much. As far as the blue bag revenue loss, I know that we have $1 million of casino money coming online. I know we have parking meter money coming online. I know we have these marijuana license fees that are coming online. If we can't give this kind of relief to the taxpayers, then we're doing something wrong.
Thank you. Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, I have a question. I see on page 3 of the proposed ordinance, it's talking about fees, and it's listing a fee for approved trash barrels. So you haven't proposed the fees, and you don't have a financial analysis of that. So do you have a suggested fee? Is that going to be an annual fee for that trash barrel?
Counselor, I think that's premature at this time. Council President, you might as well just leave my light on.
Okay.
But I think it's premature for me to proposing fees. I think this is
Okay.
something we would want to talk, I think, with the Director of Public Works, perhaps with the Mayor's Department. I'm sure that there's some analysis that's going to go into this. That's why I purposely left that blank. I wouldn't presume to tell you what the fees should be. I think that's what the committee process is for.
So, but I know the initiative that was proposed way back when was
2009?
Was to totally eliminate the blue flag.
Correct.
And any fees. So your proposal is to perhaps allow barrels, but there would be a fee for the barrels. So that is the potential of what is proposing.
It's certainly available within.
And I know there's also, I think, a proposal that's floating around as an initiative that it basically talks about just eliminating this whole program in and of itself. So this is.
I haven't heard of that. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, no, I mean.
Have
I
you
think there
sponsored
was-
that?
No, I mean, there was a proposal, I think everybody in the council received that from the people who did that initiative back.
If you want to sponsor that paper, Counselor, I'd like to see it.
So, but I'm just saying, this isn't that paper then, so as far as you know.
Clearly not.
So, all right, thank you.
Counselor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. I find the timing of this kind of odd.
Why is that?
I just find the timing of this proposal a little odd.
You proposed barrels 2 weeks ago. Was that odd?
I don't want to have a back and forth.
I just thought you were querying me.
No, I'm not.
Counselor Condon.
Everything should be going through the chair. This shouldn't be a debate back and forth
I agree.
between
I think it
councilors.
needs to
So
go to
let's
committee.
hold to some decorum.
So yeah, I was just saying to the council through the chair, I find the timing a little odd. One of the things that I think needs to be done first is better understand the financial implications this will have on our city. I think that right now we're talking in anecdotes, but we're not actually looking at the finance of this. I would recommend that prior to going to ordinance, it go to finance to find out, is this feasible? Is this realistic? Or is this kind of a pie in the sky idea at the current moment? I know that we have discussed finding new revenue streams. I know that we are looking to legalize or organize recreational marijuana establishments. We've taken a vote to dedicate all of that new revenue to public health, so that is not available. So I think it's important for us to understand what is the financial implications prior to just willy-nilly changing the ordinance. And I do think, as Councilor Kamel said, you know, finding out what the implication this is going to have on our existing contract and whether it's even possible is also really important. So I personally would like to see this go to finance for a little bit more of a sanity check of is this realistic? And then from there, if it needs to go through ordinance to change it, then I'd be in support of that. Thank you.
Counselor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam President. Actually, just with Councilor O'Malley, I do think that's maybe even a joint meeting, but it really needs to go to finance. I do know that, as Councilor Winslow had mentioned, when Mayor Christensen took over, the first thing he did was have a committee that looked at some alternatives, and in that, I'm sure we can find that report. And I met with the committee to see if Ward 1 could be sort of the guinea pig at that time. There was, you know, lots of other issues why some of the things did not happen, but it did have financial implications. It did have just how it all kind of rolls out. That might be something that we want to revisit, but I think that the financial implications, someone had actually sent an email to me suggesting some sort of grant opportunities. I think it sent it to Councilor Winslow as well. And I did look up some of those and what are some of the things that are holding us back, because it is going to be about $1 million. And I think some of the questions that Councilor Kamel brought up, what happens to the barrels? Someone takes a barrel, you know, it would be, again, $1 million to purchase the barrels just for recycling, never mind trash collection. So I do think this has sort of a huge financial implication. I know over the years, Mayor Christensen has looked at it a number of ways, met with JRM, tried to figure out lots of ways to handle this, but I do think that we need to figure out what has been done, what we can do, and what the financial implications are before we actually change some ordinances. So I would suggest that it either goes to a joint ordinance and finance, or to finance first.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Anderson.
Thank you, Madam President. Listen, the councilor has proposed a look at a trash collection alternative. He's given us some answers, some rationale as to what our residents have asked about. And what I'm hearing are people asking questions that would normally be vetted out in the subcommittee. I mean, that's the whole purpose of sending these papers to a subcommittee, to a committee to look at it, to determine how much it's going to cost, to determine whether it makes sense, you know, what's the alternative, what's the impact. So to expect that all these answers would be here as the council has proposed this, I think is presumptuous. We don't ask, I don't think I think Councilor Matheson said that it would be inappropriate for me to be talking about what the cost is without vetting it out. The question I believe that's before us is, does it make sense for the city council to take a look at an alternative receptacle for trash? That's what's before us, not how much is it's going to cost, or not the other issues that are being raised here. Those are the things that we work out in a subcommittee. We all know that the pay-as-you-throw program has been a very controversial program. You know, many of us who are still sitting at, some of us old councilors, like my colleague to my left here and I, you know, took a bullet for voting in support of something that was very, very unpopular, asking people to pay for a bag. And but that's not what's here. What is proposed here before us is in response, I believe, to some of the complaints that we've heard about the thinness of the blue bags and all the other issues that may be rectified with a container. It seems to me that the mayor had put together a subcommittee of sort to look at this, and this was one of the recommendations that had come forward. I believe it was to come forward and we're going to roll it out in ward by ward, and that never seemed to have happened. So, listen, I'm in support of the idea of, let's take a look at it. Let's see if it makes sense. Let's send it to committee and vet out these issues that are being raised here on the council floor. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Anderson. Councilor Condon.
Thank you, Madam President. You stole what I was going to say. I do remember the mayor putting together a committee. I knew one of the members on the committee, very interested in things that happen in the city like this. But a few things we should get clear here, because people can recycle in a barrel. The city yard, they give out bumper stickers. Most of my recycling, if it's big at all, it goes into a barrel that I have with the bumper sticker on there. It shouldn't be a problem or an issue. And I don't want to debate this on the floor, because I'm certainly open. I wasn't expecting to receive, you know, a 15-page document tonight, I have to be honest with you. And that's why I feel uncomfortable talking about it on the floor. But that committee, I think it was a committee of 3 or 5 people, they could not figure out how to neutralize it, the costs, all right? Melrose is somewhere around $260 a year, all right, onto the homeowner. Stoneham is about $260 or $280 a year, all right? The biggest costs that we will see, okay, and the biggest savings we had was the reduction of trash, because the recycling was incredibly increased. So I'm doing this because you're going to have problems trying to neutralize this revenue. And I don't want to see the budget unbalanced, because if it's unbalanced, we're going to have to be using reserves. And that's the last thing you want to do. But we can discuss this in committee, and if we can come up with a better alternative, you know, I'm certainly open to it. You know, Councilor from Ward 3 comes up with good ideas, but with all due respect, the mayor made the effort to come up with a better plan. And those people could not find a way how everybody in this community that owns a home and rents an apartment pays for their bags. It was always falling on the homeowner. And that was one of the reasons why a lot of people, I don't think, fully understood what kind of situation the city was in. You know, the vote is what is the vote. You know, we have a good opportunity to discuss it in committee, and if it makes sense, we do it. But it's a tough vote to make. You have to look at the numbers, and we'll have the opportunity to do that, you know, and try to give some relief wherever we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Matheson for the second time.
Oh, thank you. I don't know if Councilor Murphy has had an
Oh,
opportunity
sorry,
to speak.
you haven't spoken yet. I apologize. Hold on. I apologize, Councilor Murphy. I thought you did.
No, that's okay. Thank you very much, Council President. And, you know, everybody said some very good points here. I think, you know, Councilor Anderson hit the nail on the head. This is something that we should be vetting out in committee. But I also think we're kind of getting, I've just quickly gone through this. There's not a lot of changes to this ordinance. One of them is a new option, which to me, I'll use myself as an example. Okay, I use, on average, one $2 trash bag every week. Okay, but in that $2 trash bag, I usually put like 3 15-gallon bags that have been in a white garbage bag, that are Glad bag. Okay, so would I be willing to pay $104 to have a city barrel that was sturdier, that I could put a cover on, that I could actually put my trash outside and I wouldn't have to worry about rodents getting into it? Because right now what I have to do is I put it in the white trash bag, then I put it in the blue trash bag, then I put it in the trash barrel that I've bought at Home Depot with the cover. So, you know, I think what we're making a mountain out of a molehill. If there's a way to just have another option for some people that might make their life easier, it's, you know, it could be a pretty simple discussion. It's not necessarily taking any revenue away. You know, if that barrel equaled what I use today, I'm paying the same thing. So I think let's just send it to committee and see where we go from here. But I think it's always good to have a councilor who brings another option that can make, you know, our citizens' lives, including mine, easier. So having said that, I'd like to see it sent to, I'm happy with it going to ordinance. I'm happy with it going to a joint finance ordinance committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Matheson.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of really quick points. Thank you, Councilor Anderson. That's exactly where I was going with this. I want to see this discussed on the committee level, and I think we were starting to get into that committee discussion here on the floor. I'm perfectly amenable to sending it to Finance and Ordinance jointly, or Committee of the Whole, but I think it belongs Finance and Ordinance jointly. That's almost the entire council anyway. Councilor O'Malley made the point that we had earmarked the 3% community host agreement funds for public health, but what we haven't earmarked is the local option sales tax. So there is another source of revenue coming in with that licensure that we were discussing. And with respect to that committee, I remember that committee very well that studied this barrel issue. This is precisely what they were recommending. They didn't get too deep into the finance of it. Their job was to talk with other community members and find out what would work. I remember the member that was from Ward 3 said, "I'm tired of gift wrapping my trash." And I thought he made a really good point. And a lot of members on that committee don't even reside in the city anymore. One of their gripes was, you know, we're tired of this blue bag issue. We want some kind of option. It wasn't necessarily that eliminating this entire program needed to happen, but to give people an alternative would have been a good thing for our government to do. So with that spirit in mind, I'd like to I'll amend my motion to send it to a joint ordinance and finance meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Camille.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up, given Councilor Anderson's comments. I'm going to vote for this to go forward and have further discussion. Simply, my intent was to give Councilor Matheson a little bit of an opportunity to discuss it further, that we were interested in it, not to be a Debbie Downer. And I think, you know, you had plenty of the answers, and sometimes there's an, I don't know, let's discuss it later. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So I just want to know what you had prepared here and done, and I think it was appropriate to ask a couple of questions because this is a big deal. This is a big deal for the city, and I think people would be happy if we found a solution. So I'm going to vote for it to go to a joint session. Thanks.
Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, no, I definitely, you know, it is an issue that comes up in discussion for our residents, so I do think it's good to have this discussion. But I think the one reason I was asking questions was particularly the financial implications. We should be going this with eyes wide open. As Councilor Condon pointed out, other communities do this. It's a solvable problem with some money. So I think we have to really create that expectation. I think that, I know the real windy day we had a couple Mondays ago, everything got blown around. Having barrels instead of covered things helps. It's all good. It doesn't happen in a snap of a finger, so I really do appreciate this. I hope Councilor Matheson is one of the councilors who is not either on rules or finance, so I hope you are committing here to fully participate in that joint meeting and help the committee members help resolve this. So I do support it going to make sure it both hits finance and rules, and so thank you.
Anybody else? On behalf of the chair, I look forward to discussing this in the Joint Finance and Ordinance Committee. I don't have anything else to comment. Everybody said what I have concerns over, so we will discuss this in the committee. On Councilor Matheson's motion to refer this paper to Joint Ordinance and Finance. All those in favor? All those opposed? The matter has been referred. Next order of business.
Paper 8719, ordered that Section 17 of the Malden City Council rules be amended as follows. By striking Section 17, title Members to Observe Rules of Decorum in its entirety, and inserting in its place Members to Observe Rules of Decorum and Ethics.
Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. This is in response to the discussion that we've been having in ordinance. It's based off of information or materials that were provided to us by the city solicitor's office. One of the reasons why I did bring it up is because what was referred to ordinance was, I believe, a general discussion of adding some type of sanctions to our rule book. But it didn't reference any specific language. It didn't reference amending any specific sections. So this just allows for that to happen. It specifically calls out the section that needs to be amended. If you don't mind, I would like to read what the proposal is. It basically goes, members to observe rules of decorum and ethics. The city council requires an atmosphere of professional conduct and civility among its members, and shall not tolerate harassment, discrimination, or offensive behavior based on race, color, religion, national origin, gender, age, disability, or sexual orientation. Nor shall any member of the City Council use insulting, threatening, or abusive language in the course of public debate in the City Council chambers or in testimony before any city agency, board, or commission. Furthermore, this code of ethics shall apply whenever a City Council member is in any public setting or when any action or conduct becomes the subject of general public notice. This conduct also applies to all forms of social media and electronic communication as defined by the city's Human Resources Department and any form of written or graphic communication. These principles shall be enforced by public admonition through resolution, censure, and other action deemed appropriate by the council. Jurisdiction rests with the council as a whole, and therefore any member may motion a violation of this rule. If a favorable recommendation is rendered, the enforcement is deemed appropriate by the Rules and Ordinance Committee. The enforcement is deemed appropriate. The Rules and Ordinance Committee may draft a resolution of censure or any other lesser action deemed appropriate by such as an apology for vote at the next City Council meeting. The remainder of the amendment keeps what is already in the section. I'd move to refer to ordinance. Even if you don't agree with what is here, it allows this section to be amended. It could be amended with what we discussed earlier in ordinance, so I'd move to refer to ordinance.
Sorry, Councilor Camille.
Again, I'll harken back to our previous item. I understand when we normally just refer things along, but that's not to say that we have to be a rubber stamp for everything that comes along. There should be some discussion. And I'll reiterate some of the things I said about the other paper that was talking about how we talk. That was in ordinance, and my uncomfortability with that one, which was even more limited in scope than this one, where this endeavors to tell us what to say outside of this body. We can always have a resolution if we find a member has said something. What I'd like to see is the language of this be considered by the council president when she goes through the annual efforts of rewriting our rules. I don't think I want to see another paper about how we talk, so we can talk about it in ordinance when we do have other things that we have to get through. So I'm not quite sure I'll vote for this tonight.
Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam President. I agree with Councilor Camillo that I do think that some of the language should be presented to the Council President as she figures out how she's going to put together the rule book. Also, that since we are talking already in ordinance around sanctions, and when we had personal privilege and someone spoke about sanctions, and I said, that's not on the docket tonight, and the sponsor said, yes, it is. It's right here, pointed to this one, and said, it's the same thing. So it's the same thing. If that's the way we think about it, we're already talking about this, so I don't think it needs to go to ordinance. I do think that you should have a conversation with the president to see about maybe updating some of her thing, but, you know, I don't think it needs to go there. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Matheson.
Yeah, to the sponsor, I noticed that you put something on social media there. Would that apply to councilors who propound conspiracy theories and implicate people in backroom deals? I find it ironic that you're the sponsor of this. Okay.
And since there are no other lights on, okay, Councilor Spatafora.
Thank you, Madam President. I wasn't going to speak, you know, we've been talking about, it made the paper, and unfortunately, it's not something that was the intent of the paper that put forward. The rules that we are governed by are something called Robert's Rules. We do have the ability as a council, usually under the president's tutelage every year, to change those rules as we see fit. Sometimes it's simple as just, you know, no cell phones ringing in an area, things like that. But in our rule book, it also states that we accept all Robert's rules unless otherwise noted in that book. Well, we went through the book that Council President last year, Debbie DeMaria, did a great job on reinventing it, putting some history in there of the council, and made it a little larger. Because if you take Robert's rules, which I happen to have a copy of, it looks like this. And nobody wants to go through a rule book like this. So we have a smaller version, which all the council members have. The paper that I put forward last year is already in our rule book, figuratively, meaning we've accepted Robert's rules. There's nothing in our council rules that procure us from not accepting it. However, it's not spelled out in that rule book. So it was not something I was adding. It was not something that we were just throwing out there for show. It was the ability that we have it in there. Sometimes we have to take things out of here and make it a little bit more simpler to refer to. So that was the paper that was being discussed last week. The article last week seemed to sound like it was something new. We would try to create something new. It was not that. We've already accepted Robert's rules. Even if that paper comes out of committee with a vote to deny or no vote, we essentially can do that now because we accepted Robert's rules. So I support the rest of the council, the fellow councils who said, you know, the council president has the ability every year, in this case, it's Council Seeker, to change those rules, and they have to be voted on by 2/3, so she just can't say, hey, we're going to change council days or things like that. But I think at that point, that's when we should take a look at further amending, whether we say decorum or where does the reach go in terms of social media, et cetera. So I think we should wait for that time to do so. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Spatafora. On behalf of the chair, I too am not in favor of this paper. It's extremely similar to the one we just discussed in ordinance at 5:30. I think that the sponsor of this paper was a little premature. I think that we could amend some of these rules with the paper that we already have in ordinance, if you wanted to discuss it. I'm just not quite sure that I'm looking to micromanage fellow councilors when they're not up on this stage or in a committee meeting. I will not be one to sit and observe everybody's social media accounts and how they act and what they say out in public. I'm not quite sure that I could be in favor of adding those kinds of things to our rule book. As far as the council meeting of the whole, the committee of the whole, the full council meeting, the committee meetings, I'm absolutely okay with that. But as far as social media, and I think everybody up here, Councilor O'Malley, knows how they're supposed to conduct themselves. We are at a higher level of standard than most because of who we are. I really think that, I don't think we need to put it into our rule book. I think everybody knows how they should and should not act, and I would not be supporting this paper to ordinance committee tonight. Thank you. So, no second. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm going deaf, Councilor
Just
Winslow.
make a motion to put this on file for the president to review.
Councilor Winslow's motion to place this paper on file, seconded by Councilor O'Malley. All those in favor? All those opposed? The paper's been placed on file. Next order of business.
Communications, paper 8819, communication from the Planning Board regarding CCP 5418. Be it hereby ordained that Chapter 12 of the revised ordinances of 1991 as amended be further amended by adding new sections 800.6.2.24B, 300.3.2.13, 400.1.2.10, 500.1.2.9, and 500.2.23 relative to co-housing.
Councilor Spatafor, would you like her to read them all at once?
Paper 8919, communication from the Planning Board, CCP number 47018, be it hereby ordained by the Malden City Council that Chapter 12 of the revised ordinances of 1991 as amended be in the same are hereby further amended by adding a new section 700.15 as follows. Section 700.15, Development Impact Mitigation. Paper 90-19, communication from the Planning Board, CCP, paper 52518, be it hereby ordained that Chapter 12 of the revised ordinances of 1991 as amended be further amended relative to the table of intensity regulations for hotel.
On Councilor Spatafor's motion to refer these communications to rules and ordinance, all those in favor? All those opposed? The matter has been referred. Next order of business.
Claims, paper 9119, claim Donald Rualt, 9 Milton Street, Malden, Mass.
Councilor Camille for the paper.
Refer to finance.
On Councilor Camille's motion to refer this paper to finance, all those in favor? All those opposed? The matter is referred. Next order of business.
Committee reports, paper 9219, committee report rules and ordinance, paper 65-19, order that the City Council establish a Cannabis Control Commission consisting of 5 members, police chief, financial expert, building commissioner, city employees, and 1 council appointment and 1 mayoral appointment.
Councilor Winslow.
I was going to make a motion to table this because of the next paper is the same, but leave it to councilors.
On Councilor Spatafor's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor? All those opposed? Committee report is received. Councilor Spatafor for the committee.
Thank you, Madam President. So the next 2 papers was actually 1 paper, and they were separated, and they were done for strategic reasons. So this paper before us right now is the creation of a Cannabis Control Commission. And well, I'm reading what it says. Establish a Cannabis Control Commission consisting of 5 members. And these 5 members, 3 will be city employees, and that is the police chief, a financial expert, and the building commissioner. And then there will be 2, what I refer to as residents or lay people. That will be, one will be council approved and the other one will be by the mayor approved, a body of 5. And this is something that was not brought out of thin air. Some communities have chosen to use liquor boards. Others have set up a similar type of panel in terms of having The three individuals that we chose there are similar in many communities, the police chief, building, and then an expert, financial expert, excuse me. The reason why we took this paper out of the paper below it was because we initially didn't know when the cannabis, the ordinance to have cannabis was going to be passed, and we still don't know. So my intent would be to have the council vote on this so that that committee can start working immediately, meaning those three individuals who work for the city can start working on their own rules and regulations and paperwork, et cetera. And then the mayor's office, as well as the city council, can start working on sending out an application or any type of advertisement we have to do to get the residents to apply for those two positions. And then work with the three individuals who are already members of the city of Malden. Those two residents have to be I mean, it makes sense, but they have to be City of Malden residents. I'm not using the term residents lightly. And then they will start working immediately. The second paper is the actual ordinance to sell recreational marijuana in the City of Malden. If that paper does not pass today, I would still like the Cannabis Committee to go forward with their work because they probably have 2 months, maybe 3 months of work to work on. However, I think, because we've done a lot of time spent here, and there was a lot of members of the council that were at that meeting earlier today, so I appreciate that. However, if somebody reconsiders that vote and we don't have enough, I still want the Cannabis Commission to do their work. We do not want to delay this any longer. We felt it's gone on long enough. And the Cannabis Commission, like I keep on, they have work to do now. So that's why I'm hoping to have the 2 votes. I intended to happen, I hope they both pass, and it will be redundant, but if they don't, we'll be prepared to move forward. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Spatafora. On Councilor Spatafora's motion to adopt the order, the clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Anderson? Yes. Councilor Kamel? Yes. Councilor Condon? Yes. Councilor Crowe? Yes. Councilor DeMaria? Councilor Matheson? Yes. Councilor Murphy? Yes. Councilor O'Malley? Yes. Councilor Spatafora?
Yes.
Councilor Winslow?
Ordinance, are we voting to, don't we have to enroll this and then vote on it to create an ordinance change? What are we actually voting to do tonight? So, I mean, we usually have to do enroll and then ordain, so we're not in a position to ordain it unless we motion to suspend the rules.
No, we're not gonna, there was no intent to ordain it today.
So just enroll it, so
yes,
we're voting
correct.
to enroll it. Okay.
Sorry, I said adopt, my apologies.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
so we're voting to enroll it, all right, so yeah, yes.
Yeah, I wasn't making a motion.
President Council Seeker?
Yes.
That passes unanimous.
It's enrolled. It's enrolled. Yeah, it's on it, I wasn't asking to be enrolled today.
Next order of business. Councilor Anderson.
Yes, can I ask, please, that we talked about decorum and order of the committee. It seems to me that when we take a vote, once the vote starts, particularly in a roll call vote, we take a vote, that's when the vote should be cast. If there are questions that need to be raised, those are the things that are supposed to be raised before the vote gets taken. If there's anyone that's unready to make a vote because they have some questions, that's the time. And I would ask you, Madam President, to enforce that kind of procedures, that if people have, are we ready to vote on this next one? Is there any unreadiness? Anyone have questions about it? Those are the things that should be cleared up before the vote is taken. So I'd ask that you deal with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Anderson. Next order of business.
Communication from the Planning Board, CCP. Oh, I'm sorry. Paper number 9319, Committee Report, Rules and Ordinance, paper number 27418. Order that the Malden Licensing Board be the license approval authority for the marijuana retail establishments in consultation with the Malden Board of Health.
Councilor Spatafora's motion to receive the committee report. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Committee report is received. Councilor Spatafora for the committee.
Yeah, I'll be brief, Madam President. The council has been working on this. It started under Council O'Malley's tutelage in the beginning of, 2018, along with the new ordinance committee, and I want to thank Mr. Hogan here. We had the ability to look at some other communities that passed it between the fall of 18 and the beginning of 19. We worked on putting together a complete binder with not only the state rules and regulations, but a complete outline of other communities, from host agreements to best practices to hiring to the entire slew. So we had some cheat sheets to look at. Everything that we put in our paper, we can't take all the credit for. It was communities that were around us. You know, sometimes the best way to do something is look at what's working. And we think we took the best of the best. I want to thank the ordinance committee and several members of this entire body that attended these meetings and were very vocal in getting this to where it is. I know there's a couple amendments because we had another meeting this this evening. And there was some still discussion going on, fine tuning some verbiage, and I know there's some couple amendments coming through. I don't know who's going to make them. I can't make them, but again, I want to thank Mr. Hogan, and the entire council, especially the ordinance committee, for their fine work, and we're finally ready to move on with the marijuana within the city of Malden. And hopefully we'll start receiving some applications and start receiving some of this much anticipated revenue that we're going to be looking for. With that said, I know there's some amendments coming forward, so I will yield my time.
Thank you, Councilor Spatafora. Councilor O'Malley.
This is just a little housekeeping, because I want to make sure we get it right. On the docket here, it's listed as an order, but the proper format for amending the ordinances should say, be it hereby ordained that section 6.49, licensing of marijuana establishments in the city of Malden, of the revised ordinances of 1991, be amended by insert, I read that wrong, let me read it properly. It should read, be it hereby ordained that section 6.49 of the revised ordinances of 1991 be amended by inserting section 6.49, licensing of marijuana establishments in the city of Malden.
Madam President.
Councilor Spatafora.
Can I ask for a 5-minute recess?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Counselor O'Malley.
I move to amend the paper to read, be it hereby ordained that Section 6 of the revised ordinances of 1991 be amended as follows, by inserting Section 6.49, licensing of marijuana establishments in the city of Malden, as presented in the committee report that was referred out from ordinance last week.
On Counselor O'Malley's motion to amend, seconded by Counselor Crowe, all those in favor? All those opposed? Paper's been amended. Counselor Winslow.
Yeah, I have another amendment. This is ones we were discussing in committee. So my amendments, maybe I'll separate them out. So the first amendment would be to, in the paper, as now amended, would be to amend section 6.49.3 by striking out the last sentence, which begins one such license, so striking that sentence. And then in section 6.49.5, striking the language that starts after subsequently apply for a special permit, and striking the end of that sentence that starts, so that provided that to the end that says regulations, and strike that. And then we would add in after special permit, we would say, for one of the licenses, preference shall be given to an applicant where at least 51% of the business is owned by a resident of Malden who has been a resident for each of the past 5 years, comma, or to an applicant who would qualify for the Cannabis Control Commission Economic Empowerment Priority Review. So that would be my amendment. Thank you.
On Counselor Winslow's motion to amend the paper, seconded by Counselor Crowe, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Paper has been amended.
Okay, and I have a second amendment, thank you. I'll still have the floor. For section 6.49.5, the very last sentence, I would amend that by adding the following language after the first part, with successful receipt of the local license. Then I would add in the following language, and payment of the first annual fee. Yeah, so that would be item 7, the very last sentence of that section. So, all right, that's my motion to amend that by adding in that language.
On Counselor Winslow's motion to amend, seconded by Counselor Crowe, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Paper has been amended. Counselor O'Malley.
I just have one more amendment that I'd ask. In the first section, 6.49.1, purpose and intent, the second to last sentence reads as follows. The purpose of this ordinance is to establish the local licensing authority and local licensing process to ensure safety, compliance, and to minimize adverse impact of marijuana establishments. I would move to insert between minimize and adverse the word potential, so it would read to minimize potential adverse impact. I think that saying adverse impact assumes there is going to be adverse impact versus the potential of adverse impact. It's up to the committee.
On Counselor O'Malley's motion to amend the paper, seconded by Counselor Kamel, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Paper has been amended. No other questions? Everybody's good before we make this vote? No questions? Everyone knows what they're voting on? Counselor Winslow.
Just make a motion to enroll the ordinance as amended.
On Counselor Winslow's motion to enroll as amended, seconded by Counselor Spatafora, the clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Anderson. Yes. Counselor Camel. Yes. Counselor Condon. Counselor Crowe. Yes. Counselor Matheson. Counselor Murphy. Yes. Counselor O'Malley. Yes. Counselor Spatafora. Yes. Counselor Winslow. Yes. President Council Seeker.
Yes. Paper has been enrolled. Next order of business.
Paper 9419, Committee Report, Finance Paper 2819. Order that the sum of $80,000 be and the same is hereby transferred to DPW equipment parts from the following accounts: $44,500 from Revenue Reserve and $35,500 from DPW Labor.
On Councilor Camel's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor? All those opposed? The committee report is received. Councilor Camel for the paper, for the committee, sorry.
Right. Yes, we had this, we discussed this in finance last week. We had Director Knox come in and discuss it. The DPW had faced some, among other things, some infrequent costs incurred by the needed repair of a street sweeper. So this was to sort of reallocate some funds to make sure the DPW could absorb those repairs and then continue on with the rest of the year after they had exhausted the equipment parks account. So I believe, if Council Murphy doesn't mind me leaning on her, it was unanimous?
It was, and it was also,
Councilor Murphy.
this was definitely for the repair of the sweeper, but it was also for the repair of a pickup truck that was damaged in an accident.
Thank you. And also the repair. Thank you very much. So I would ask for the council to approve this.
On Councilor Camel's motion to adopt the order, clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Anderson? Yes. Counselor Camel?
Yes.
Counselor Condon? Yes. Counselor Crowe? Yes. Counselor Matheson? Yes. Counselor Murphy?
Yes.
Counselor O'Malley? Yes. Counselor Spatafora? Yes. Counselor Winslow?
Yes.
President Council Seeker?
Yes. The order has been adopted. Next order of business.
Committee Report, Finance Paper 507-18, order that the City of Malden accept the provisions of MGL Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 17, 17C, 17C and a half, and 17D with the following amendment. Ordered that the City of Malden accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 17F, Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 22G, and Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 22H.
On Councilor Camel's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor? All those opposed? The committee report is received. Councilor Camel for the committee.
So after a bit of a convoluted history for something that was somewhat simple and kind of a no-brainer, we had this in finance. It came back to the floor. There were some concerns about the exact wording of the language to make sure we were referencing the correct clauses. We sent it back to finance. We had a great discussion on it with Assessor O'Brien and also City Solicitor Fallon. We made sure we nailed the language. We made sure we discussed the intent and made sure we absolutely affirmed both our intent and the mechanics of getting this done. And what these refer to is accepting some provisions of the BRAVE Act, which extend tax abatements to veterans and their families, as well as a provision that accepts a cost of living adjustment for those tax abatements, as well as tax abatements for seniors. We also got an opinion from Controller Rannigan that the impact of these costs of living and these other abatements would be somewhat minimal. I believe he said somewhere in the range of $20,000 a year, and to serve both our seniors and our veterans. I think that I would ask for the council to do a final approval of this. Thank you.
On Counselor Camel's motion to adopt the order, the clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Anderson? Yes. Counselor Camel?
Yes.
Counselor Condon? Yes. Counselor Crowe? Yes. Counselor Matheson? Yes. Counselor Murphy?
Yes.
Counselor O'Malley? Yes. Counselor Spatafora? Yes. Counselor Winslow? Yes. President Council Seeker.
Yes. The order is adopted. Next order of business.
Committee report, public property, paper number 20-19, petition AT&T to construct and maintain telecom wires, etc., National Grid pole at Evelyn Place.
On Counselor O'Malley's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The committee report is received. Counselor O'Malley for the committee.
Thank you, Madam President. This paper is related to small cell antennas that have been coming up around the city. The council worked very diligently last year to come up with an ordinance which goes into public properties for review. Our building commissioner reviews that. Both petitions before us have been reviewed and approved unanimously by the Public Properties Committee. There is one amendment that needs to be made to the current petition. You'll see in the second one it says with the following amendment to require the equipment to be brown in color. That amendment was also made on the committee report, so I would just move now to grant, to amend, to insert with the following amendment to require that the equipment be brown in color.
On Counselor O'Malley's motion to amend, seconded by Counselor Spatafora, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
And I would move to grant the petition.
On Counselor O'Malley's motion to grant the petition as amended, all those in favor? All those opposed? The petitions have been granted. Next order of business.
Was that both of them or one?
That was just one.
Okay.
The second committee report for public property, paper 21-19, petition AT&T to construct and maintain telecom wires, etc., National Grid pole, Linden Avenue, with the following amendment to require that the equipment be brown in color.
Move to receive the committee report.
Counselor O'Malley's motion to receive the committee report. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The committee report is received. Counselor O'Malley for the committee.
Similar to the last paper, we reviewed it with the building commissioner, and we referred it out as amended related to the color. So I would move to grant the committee report as amended.
On Counselor O'Malley's motion to grant the petition as amended, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The petition has been granted. Next order of business. Docket is clear. Personal privilege. Counselor Camel.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to remind folks, I've put it online. I've also sent out some notices that tomorrow at the Salem Wood School at 6:30 in the middle school cafeteria, I will have a Ward 6 community update. The agenda is quite broad. I just want to give an update on many of the issues that are facing our community and give citizens, residents, an opportunity to ask me questions and bring up the issues that are most important to them. So I hope folks will come and have the discussion. If you were unable to attend, call me anytime at 781-870-7029 or email me at dcamel@cityofmalden.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to let the community know that this Saturday, March 9th, MATV and various other groups will be having an Arts and Culture Summit at 10:30 a.m. at the River's Edge development, looking to organize the next iteration of arts and culture in Malden. Just want to let people know that that's happening. Oh, that is 10:30 a.m. on Saturday the 9th. Aside from that, next Wednesday, March 13th, the Charter Commission will again be meeting here at the Senior Center. If you're interested in finding out how that process is going, please come by. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Winslow.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, the Malden Rotary Club, this coming Sunday is holding the Malden Road Race, so be aware of that. That's gonna be happening pretty early. I'm gonna be out there at 5:30 in the morning, but it's happening 7 o'clock. And so I'm not gonna be running, I'm gonna be a volunteer. I do that. And then also, on Thursday, March 21st, I've helped organize the first Malden Sustainability Conference, and that will be held at the BB School at 6 o'clock, and it's going to be focused on transportation. Before the conference, we will have an electric bus and some other electric vehicles that will be available for people to look at. And then the keynote speaker is Jackie DeWolf, who's the MassDOT head of Sustainable Transportation. So I'm looking forward to that and really looking forward how we're going to transport Malden into the future. Thank you. Great.
Thank you. Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam President. And if you want to make sure that you get to the road race, believe it or not, this weekend is when we change the clocks again. So Saturday night, so make sure you do that so you can get to the road race right on time. And this weekend, the Malden High School will be having their annual Junior Varieties. That's Friday and Saturday night. It's one of the biggest fundraisers that really supports the junior class to pay for their prom next year. So there's a lot of fantastic talent. I think it's at 6:30, but you can go on maldenpublicschools.org, and it has a link to get tickets at 6:30 both nights, and it really is. We have a lot of talent, and it's a great show, so come on down, bring your family. Thank you.
Thank you. And behalf on the chair, I just want to thank Bobby Knox and the DPW for a great job that they did this past weekend with our first huge storm of the winter. And also to May Christensen and Ron Hogan from the parking department, who realized that the weathermen were once again wrong on Saturday, and anybody who received a ticket during the snow emergency Saturday morning will no longer have that ticket. It's been cleared through the system. Ron told me before the meeting this evening, if the 7 people had already paid before they decided to do what they did via MasterCard or Visa or online, so their credit card will be refunded. If they used a check, then they will receive a check in the mail. So if you received a ticket this past Saturday for the dud storm that we had with the snow emergency, you will no longer be responsible for that ticket. I think that that was a great gesture on behalf of our city department, and hopefully the weathermen won't be wrong, or maybe we won't be so quick to do those snow emergency parkings. I, for one, am hugely affected when they do that, considering I have 3 children who drive cars, and the parking on Cleveland Street is absolutely horrendous. So I just want to, once again, thank them for a terrific job. We had a lot of snow in a short period of time, and I think that the streets looked pretty good when I drove around yesterday afternoon. So thank you, Bobby Knox, DPW, Mayor Christensen, the parking department. Motion to adjourn. All those in favor? All those opposed? Good evening.